Okay. And we are live. This is your host, Christal Jordan, and this is a very special cover conversation during the month of March, which is Women's History Month. And what better way to celebrate than with the star of the new Aretha series on Nat Geo, the Genius series, Cynthia Erivo. Welcome, Cynthia.
Thank you for having me. Hello, Crystal.
Thank you. Well, it's National Women's History Month, and I know we have some great questions. I have some questions for you about the series, but I was wondering, are there any women in particular that you really look up to and celebrate during this time of female celebration?
Yeah, my mother is definitely one of those women that I celebrate, my sister. There are obviously Aretha, who I was able to play. There are Felicia Rashad is one of those women that I love and trust. And my good friend, I was doing something today with her, Anja Day, who's had an amazing few months. This last year has been incredible for her. And I know how much hard she worked. I think we talked about 3 years ago, how much time and effort she has put into this particular role. Danielle Brooks, who is now on billboards everywhere playing Mahalia Jackson. And I knew that was something when we first met on The Color Purple. It was something I kept saying. She just reminded me there was something of her that felt like the right essence of her. So I'm really glad for her. So these are the women that are in my life that I'm celebrating fully. Yeah.
Wonderful. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So I have to say, I saw the series and it is absolutely brilliant. I enjoyed doing Harriet, but I think I enjoyed this more. Maybe there was more of you.
Yeah.
There was more story. I love the fact that this biopic is done over a series, so you get a chance to actually not have to ingest everything in one sitting. How did this happen? Did you know that this production was taking place and want to be a part of it, or were you tapped to actually audition for it?
I was tapped. So I had no idea what was happening. I was at the Tonys one year, I want to say it was 2018. And I was on the red carpet, and one of the interviews had asked me to sing my favorite song, or sing like the song that I go to, my go-to song, my favorite song. And Ain't No Way is one of my favorite songs. So I started singing that on the red carpet. I had no idea any of this was happening. And that taping of me singing this song was sent to Clive Davis and Brian Grazer and Imagine and everyone there. And I got a call from my agent that said that they wanted me to come in and have a conversation about playing Aretha.
So they were already in the process of putting this piece together. Wonderful. Yeah. Wonderful. See how God works.
Right. Business and do your work, it will come in the right direction.
Just very authentic. That is a great story. So I have to mention, like I said, you played another a larger than life historical figure with Harriet. And I think that's where, people have been seeing your work, but that was a huge role to take on and become this larger than life icon that most of us just, we see in history books, but never seen her really brought to life.
Yeah.
Were there any commonalities or anything between these two women that you could take from Harriet to Aretha that you found?
Well, I guess both of them had this unshakable determination. They both knew what they wanted. They both knew what was deserving of them, what they were deserving of. For Harriet, it was freedom. She knew that she had a right to it. And I guess in a way for Aretha, it was the same, the freedom to own, the freedom to be who she was fully in front of an audience, the freedom to make music and have ownership over it. And both of them had this desire to spread that out. So whether it be Aretha making all types of music, collaborating with different types of artists, creating music that crossed boundaries, or Harriet, who wasn't really able to rest, being free on her own if her people were not free as well. So I think this is the commonality, the biggest commonality between the two of them. Also, both of them could sing. Both of them used music for communication. Harriet really did use song to communicate to enslaved people in order to save them. And obviously, Aretha using song to communicate a feeling and emotion. The things that had happened in her life, they all came through her song, and she was able to communicate with people.
Yeah. It seemed like both, obviously with Harriet, felt that her life's work was to help other people. Do you think there was a difference in, just from your perspective, where African Americans were from that period as far as mentally, her being able to use her song. I didn't even know that, use song to help people. And then Aretha still, singing about the pain. And she felt such a strong sense of responsibility to share her thoughts on human rights and civil rights. How do you think the difference was from where the mindset was of African Americans from one point to the next point?
Just in general? I mean, I don't know if I can speak on African Americans in general. I can speak on the difference in mindset of these two women. And
right.
I think Black women have a particular penchant for knowing what is necessary in the moment in order to tell their story and help others. I think we're natural nurturers, we're natural caretakers. We can't help but to want to take care of others. We don't feel comfortable usually we don't feel comfortable if we are doing really well and the rest of the people that we love and the people that we're taking care of aren't also doing well. So we do our utmost to help others. And I think that the beautiful thing about Harriet and Aretha is that neither one of them felt comfortable just relishing in the great things that happened to them, relishing in their freedoms, relishing in what they had alone for them. It wasn't enough to just be in something by themselves.
Right.
Their reason for being really was to help other people, to whether it was Aretha when it came to helping Dr. Martin Luther King and with the civil rights movement, or Harriet literally helping to save people's lives. Neither one of them was satisfied with just singing. There was at one point in Aretha's life a want to make sure that the music she made reflected the time that she was living through, reflected what people were experiencing, reflected what she was experiencing. And the same goes for Harriet, the want to do the work that allowed for people in her space, in her time, to experience freedom the way that she knew that she deserved to, and she knew that others also deserved.
Right. I like that. I'm wondering because, like with Harriet, we see a character, but Aretha, most of us think we know because we've seen her on television. By the time most of us did see her, she was already this huge icon. So I'm wondering, what were your thoughts about her? Obviously, looking up to her in singing and music, she has to be at one of everybody's heroes if they enjoy song. But what were your thoughts of her before playing this role, and then now, what did you learn about her in this role that you would take from her moving forward?
Yeah, I think when you go into playing these roles, I think you don't quite compute that these people, these icons, these greats are human first. And for me, that's always what I'm seeking when I'm playing these women. For me, it was what I was seeking with Harriet. It's what I was seeking for Aretha. I think we all know and love her as the icon Aretha Franklin, Queen of Soul, who made all this music and did wonderful things. But we forget that in order for her to be this larger than life, incredible icon, hero, sage of music, she had to live through a lot of things, and she had to live through hardships. She had to live through heartbreak. She had to live through motherhood in order to tell the stories as truthfully as she was able to. And I think going into this and discovering all of the pitfalls that she could have come across, all of the things that could have stopped her in her tracks. I knew she was a mother. I just don't know that it quite computed that she was a mother at 12. By 14, she had 2. And whilst this was happening, was learning and becoming Aretha that we know. So her living through a career and doing a lot of work that a lot of us don't realize how early she started this music career. She couldn't have been more than 19, 20. And I think one of the pictures we see, she's like 15. And this is a woman that was on the road by the age of 12, 13 herself, while she was singing on the gospel circuit, and moved through the jazz circuit and started working as a fully fledged artist singer that we know. She was signed very early, and she was doing this and managing motherhood at the same time. And for me, that always sort of wows me, because we worry that when our young women become young mothers, we assume that all hope is lost, and we worry that they won't be able to be their fullest truest selves. They haven't had the time to grow and learn and be. But somehow Aretha found a way to do just that. We discovered her after she was a mother, and that she managed to find the space for other people as well in this, that she managed to find the space to become friends with Dr. Martin Luther King and work with him on the civil rights movement, that she managed to do with that. It just sort of surprised me. And the thing I didn't realize was that with all this, she didn't read music. So she's a concert level pianist, able to compose and make music and song without the semantics of it, without being able to read it, without notation, which is next to impossible, because the way she plays is like a Beethoven, a Bach. She's unbelievably talented and unbelievably resilient, and that actually is the thing that I was surprised to find, because it makes her even more of an icon and a hero to me, because of she was able to come through to show us who she was.
Staying right kind of there, I think one of the things that audiences will see that definitely stood out to me was, you mentioned her being a mother and having so much responsibility so early. One of the most interesting relationships is the relationship that she has with her father. It's very unconventional. He introduces her to, like you said, being able to go on tour, and really like believes in her, but yet he's definitely not the typical supportive picture of a father that we would think, one would need. What did you take from that relationship? We got a chance to see young Aretha interacting with him, and then later, what is your takeaway from that relationship
that
affected her?
I guess the thing that I really took away from it, and all of the relationships I think that she was experiencing, is that they were all extremely complex. And then I think we often believe that relationships are cut and dry and very simple and very straightforward, because it's sort of often what's played out. But that's just not the human experience, and that her experience with those that she loved and those that she was around, those that she had family with, it was difficult at times and complicated at times. But what I also learned later on is that that's one of the lasting relationships in her life, and that without that relationship, I don't know that we would have her. And I know that she was devastated when he was gone. So it was a relationship that was shifting and changing and growing, and she was growing in it, because there is a world in which she was his daughter first. He was the reason. And then after a while, she had to grow out of that and become herself without him. And I think that may just make for a complex space when you have to try and become yourself without your parent. The parent might find it difficult to let that go.
Yeah. Especially when it's a father. How do you think her not having her mother and then losing other women that were instrumental to her, do you think that affected her desire her ability to mother and her definition of motherhood, and then maybe what she was, maybe something that she was looking for or never did quite have, that nurturing mother to give her that validation?
I actually think that because she didn't have that relationship, I think it made her more nurturing. I think when we don't have something that we deeply want and deeply wish for, that we make a promise to ourselves often, I'm never going to be like that, and I want to do this instead, and I want a mother like this, and I believe that there is a joke that she loves to cook for people, she loves making food for people, she loves having parties, she loves having people around. It's making up for the space that was empty because she wasn't there, her mother wasn't there. And so it's creating, a more nurturing space. And I think she deeply loves her children. I think she she wanted to make up for the thing that she didn't get herself. I think that's I think it's what we all do. You
Mm-hmm.
know, my father isn't there, and so I want to make sure that any men in my life are treated with the utmost respect, and both of and between myself and whichever male that is in my life, whether it be someone who's like a brother or a younger brother, I want to make sure that they know that they are taken care of by me as well, that they have a space here.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that what it's like to not have a father, and I know with other young ladies, if they also have the same type of experience, I want to make sure that they're not searching for it. Um,
Right.
because that's what we try to do, cover the spaces of the things
Mhm.
that we don't have with the things that we wanted, you know?
Right.
Um,
Right.
and I think that's what happened. I think that it made her um, both vulnerable because she had to grow up fast. She had to learn how to be a woman without a woman in
Mhm.
her life. And when she did find women in life, when they passed on and when they moved away, it was like losing another mother consistently. And I think
Mhm.
where she leaned deeply on her grandmother, and I think she leaned on her sisters. Uh,
Mhm.
when we don't have something, we find a way to replace it. And I think she was spending her life doing that as well.
Right. Last question about relationships. I thought that was a huge theme throughout the movie, and just when you're doing biopics or just life in itself.
Mhm.
We see a lot of the relationships, especially later with her producers and people that are involved with her career. There's a familiar relationship, but a lot of that is based on her talent
Mhm.
and based on the fact that she is in some ways a commodity.
Mhm.
Even the relationship with her father, to an extent, we know that she was his favorite, and I don't know if it was clear if she was the favorite because of her talent or
Mhm.
she was just the favorite. So I think that theme kind of relates to a lot of people that are, in famous positions such as yourself. Anyway, how do
Mhm.
you navigate those relationships that are based in the talent, but there has to be some authenticity there, but you've got to wonder how much of this is just love for me and how much of this is because I'm making money and this is paying your bills and all that. How do you think she was able to balance that the way
I
that she did?
I think it comes from because I'm also sort of navigating through it as well. It's not always easy, and sometimes you discover quite quickly that there are people who aren't as caring as you need them to be, and I think it's just discernment. You have to ask the questions. You have to pay close attention to how how often you get to have a conversation with this person. And if every time you have a conversation with this person, it's about what work you're doing and what you can bring to the table, then then that feels like it's a relationship that's about you as a commodity. I think that the relationship between her and Jerry Wexler was a very special one.
Mhm.
They, they had their arguments and whatnot, and of course they had their disagreements. But he made a lot of music with her and really believed in her as
Mhm.
her talent and who she was, and made space to collaborate and have conversation. And I think that when you can find people like that who also want you to excel because of what you can do, then
Mhm.
there's something really special about that. I've been lucky enough to come across some of those people in my time. Um, but when you do find those people, it makes it very easy to spot the people who aren't about you as a whole
Right.
holistically. Very, very easy. And it's also about being unafraid to let those who aren't for you holistically, because everyone, when you meet someone, it's always for a reason. I've never believed that each a meeting is for nothing at all.
Mhm.
You're meant to come into our life. You know the saying, some people are for a season and some people are
Yeah.
like, and for me, I really do believe that. But when you feel like the season is up, you have to be unafraid of going, okay, that season is finished.
Mhm.
Move
Yeah,
on.
that's the hard part, is having the courage to say,
Yeah.
"This is no longer serving me,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I've gotta go."
Yeah.
Is there anything that you learned about yourself? Because I'm assuming you had to go kinda into a deep dive and really study this character. What did you learn about yourself playing Aretha Franklin?
I think I learned that I'm less patient than I thought I was. I had to find it with her. I had to find patience. I had to find because I would get frustrated with myself if I couldn't quite get something, and it would drive me nuts. And so I would have to find a way to step back, take a breath, and take my time with something. Um, I also I also learned that I don't need to be afraid of, I'm about to step into myself as a musician, and I have this album and I'm writing it. I sort of learned that not to be afraid to ask for what I need when it comes to me as a musician, because that can sometimes be tough because you don't want to upset anyone. You don't want to be called a diva. And it's also sort of like being okay that word may be thrown at you from time to time. And it doesn't necessarily mean that's a reflection of who you are, but it's a reflection of what that person wishes or thinks of you, because you don't agree with something, and it is okay to disagree with something. I learned about what I want the quality of my work to be like. When you're singing a lot of Aretha Franklin songs, you quickly learn that she was quality control. Like everything was very special. The way she sang it was very special. Everything was very meaningful. Each word, each breath, each line, each lyric, each note had a meaning, and it felt it. And so I guess whilst I was recording my own album, whilst filming Aretha, I just learned what I wanted to do with my voice, how I wanted things to sound, what I wanted it to mean, and was okay about diving into the detail of things. Yeah.
Do you think she would be pleased with your portrayal?
I hope so. I hope so. I think so. Yeah. Nice.
So you are going from Aretha to playing a blue fairy. The live action Pinocchio, total different. I mean, I don't think you can find a bigger polar opposite. Are you excited about that? That role in television?
Yeah, I am. My thing is the more little fairies we can find that are brown skinned, the merrier. I think that there's something really special about being asked to play this role that gives us a little bit of whimsy and magic and fun and fairy dust. I'm really excited. The little girl in me is jumping up and down, and my friend, who is actually doing beautifully at the moment, and you've seen him, Leslie, his daughter is my goddaughter. And the first thing he said is, your goddaughter is going to freak out. She's so excited. And I think that my first thought is, oh my goodness, my goddaughter will have a fairy godmother, which is just the most wonderful thing to be able to give my little girls around me. And it just makes me really happy to be able to do that. Yeah.
I gotta say, we all love fairy tales deep down inside. And I just thought, wow, I can't imagine how I would have looked at life differently because that was always, the fairies were always blonde, blue-eyed. There's no other look for that. Maybe someone else would have brown hair, but definitely blue-eyed blonde fairy. So that's a total different reality that little girls will have now. So that's gotta feel great. Congratulations on that.
Do my own. I think I'm gonna have my own little shaved head, and it's like it's gonna be great, so we won't be afraid of if we have to cut our hair, and we won't be told that we're not pretty if we don't have lots of hair. There's so many different layers to this kind of thing, and there's sort of this unspoken thing of the beauty of these magical creatures and the beauty of the fairies that come into their lives, and because we rarely get to see us as those things, I think there's something very special about being able to say, hey, this fairy is brown skin and has a shaved head, and she's pretty too. So
beautiful too. Yeah, she's magical too. I have to say, there's something very magical about an actress that can play Harriet Tubman and Aretha Franklin and then a blue fairy. That's magic in itself. So kudos to you on that. I wonder, because like such huge roles with such meaning and such gravity you've been able to have in your career so far, and it's still just beginning. What do you want for your career moving forward, and what are you expecting of yourself in that as you move forward in your career?
I always make the joke that I dive into the deep end. I never take the easiest route ever. So I'm still looking for more of these complex human beings, whether they be real or fictional. And I want to just keep displaying the worlds in which we can live in, but are never displayed in. You know what I mean? I want to make sure that I have a production company now. So I'm trying to make sure that we have stories that I can create space for other young women to be in and to have their moment to shine. And that really is important for me. Just find roles for other young women who are brilliant, just who don't have the platform. I have a little kids book out, and so hopefully I'd love that to turn into a little series. So I to like create more of that and just keep moving forward. And hopefully in my lifetime, I would like to make sure that I could provide the space for the education in arts that often Black and brown people just don't know they can even get. And so hopefully I could be one of those spaces. We only have really like one. Identity is really amazing, but it's most likely one of the only ones that's geared towards allowing us the space to be creative and to learn. And so hopefully I get to do that at some point as well.
Well, you're doing a great job. And I think you're part of this movement of change that we're seeing on screens in front of us. So we're so thankful to be able to celebrate you and celebrate this amazing piece with Nat Geo. I do have to ask you one last question before I let you go, Cynthia. The entire country was rocked with this interview with Meghan and Harry. Do you have any feedback, any thoughts on what we saw in that interview and the relationship between, England and everything that was talked about in that interview?
First of all, I was saddened that they had experienced such abandonment. And when they spoke about racism, did I lose you for a second?
For a second, yeah.
Where did you lose me?
You said when they talked about racism and then it froze.
Okay, so I was saying, and when they talked of racism, sadly, I wasn't remotely surprised. As a woman who is from the UK, it is not something that is new to me. I know of the history of the UK. I know of the history of colonialism. I know of the history of slavery that is often not talked about. I've experienced it. When you're a Black girl in the UK, there is a certain image that people think that you are. There is when you walk into a shop, someone's following you around. If you're in a Superdrug or a Boots, which we call it, there's a security guard tailing you just in case you might take something. It's all stuff that we've experienced. It's just usually on micro scales. This happened to be in front of the world, and when it was happening, I'm reading it and seeing the comparisons between the two duchesses. For me, it was very, very clear. And it's saddening, to be honest, and maddening that we are still in a place where we can't just admit that is the situation, and we have to do something about it. And we have to have the conversation that moves us past this, because it's been such a long. England is an old space. It's an old place. It's been around for thousands of years. And a lot of change needs to happen, because it hasn't been happening for a very long time.
Yeah. Well, conversation is starting. So, and it's much bigger the way than we've seen before. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. We are cheering you on. We look forward to the premiere of Aretha, the Nat Geo Genius Aretha, but also seeing you in Pinocchio and everything else that you have going on. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, and please do come back and share with us when you have new projects to share.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. I will.
All right. Thank you, Aretha. Bye-bye. Thank you, Sammy.